Hello everybody, this is Dr. Cole. It's Sunday afternoon, September 18th, and we're now entering week 5 of Political Science 1013 on the 8-week schedule for the first 8 weeks of the fall 2022 term. Well, okay everybody, it's Sunday the 18th. Many of you will be seeing this on Monday the 19th, and by that time the window will be open for our midterm exam, Exam 2, which is available for you to take all day tomorrow, Monday, September 19th, from midnight tonight, Sunday, until midnight Monday. You'll have 45 minutes once you begin the exam. You can expect 10 or 15 multiple choice items and the rest true false. The material by and large comes from the class notes for units 3 and 4 on the mass media and the Constitution. You do have 3 pieces you were asked to look at to access online, and you can expect 10 or 15 items based on those. You had one about the social media platform TikTok, which has raised some eyebrows because it's become so popular, but at the same time has ties to the Chinese government, which is an issue of concern. Then you had 2 pieces to look at about the Constitution. One of them was friendlier to the Constitution than the other, so each of them takes a bit of a different perspective on the Constitution. All right, so a combination of multiple choice and true false, really the same format pretty much as Exam 1. Units 3 and 4 are the material, the class notes for Units 3 and 4, and 3 readings that we assigned tied to the material for Units 3 and 4. Okay, everybody, once the exam is over, we'll be getting some material out related to Unit 5 on the presidency, because Unit 5 and 6 will be the material for Exam 3 in a couple of weeks. Unit 5 on the presidency, Unit 6 on the federal bureaucracy. So we'll perhaps say a few words about Unit 6 next week in my message to you. Say a bit about Unit 5 on the presidency now. We begin those class notes by going through several of the most recent presidents, going back to President Carter, who would have been before the lifetime of many of my students, I'm sure, through Obama, Trump, and Joe Biden. Okay, now, the president has vast power. There's a tendency for the power of the office to expand over the course of time, which alarms some people. There are many different things the president is asked to do. We open the presentation after we talk about some of the recent presidents, and we go through some of the hats that the president is expected to wear, or roles that the president is expected to play. Now, the president has various power resources at his or her disposal that he can use, for instance, to try to influence Congress in getting a bill passed that's an administration bill that the president supports. The president has any number of helpers in the executive office of the presidency. There's an extensive staff. There are people such as the chief of staff and the press secretary. There are small bureaucratic agencies within the executive office of the president, such as the National Security Council, the Council of Economic Advisors, and the Office of Management and Budget. Then there is the cabinet, and we talk about the cabinet at the very end of these class notes. And one thing we emphasize is that the cabinet is perhaps not all that important, and we go into the reasons why. So many resources, but many demands that are placed upon the president. The Constitution addresses the power of the president, and we discuss presidential power, especially with regard to national security and foreign policy. There's also a discussion of impeachment, because there were 2 attempts to impeach and remove President Trump, one just after he left office. So I felt that it was sort of important to include that. There's also a discussion in this unit of the presidential election process, how the president is elected. And it's really different from just about any other election we have within the United States or anywhere in the world, because of the length of time over which it's stretched out. Because we go through a lengthy process of choosing the 2 major party nominees before we get to the presidential election itself, once the nominees are chosen. That will be in the summer of the election year, and so we have a relatively brief general election campaign after we've taken perhaps a year or more to try to choose the major party presidential nominees. Now, everyone The midterm election is coming up in really just a few weeks, and it's expected that candidates will begin declaring their candidacy soon after that. It had been thought that former President Trump might have declared his candidacy by now. I suppose it's close enough to the midterm election now we can expect that, if it does happen, after the midterm. And that will set off a process of about 2 years from immediately after the midterm to the presidential election coming up in November of 2024. It's not known what Joe Biden's plans are. He has said that he plans to run for re-election, but plans can change. And there's some feeling that he may not, or perhaps should not, because he would be well into his 80s by the time he finished a second term. So if he does run, that may serve to sort of clear the field, although he may have one or two opponents who are concerned, among other things, that he may be getting along too far in years to continue to exercise the office. If Trump runs, that will tend to clear the field, although he may have one or two opponents, or perhaps more. He had so many opponents back in 2016 that the opposition to him was fragmented. That's what helped him sweep to the nomination. There are any number of other candidates who are being discussed in both parties, but it's all contingent on what Trump and Biden will do. And that's perhaps getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. But we do discuss the process of the presidential election campaign. It really starts early in the presidential election year with the primaries, and a few states do hold caucuses to choose delegates to the nominating conventions, which will nominate the candidates officially. You have to get a majority of delegates to be nominated. But jockeying for position to try to get all those delegates and set yourself up to do well in those primaries and caucuses will go on about a year before that. Once again, candidates may begin declaring their candidacy soon after the previous midterm election. Then once the delegates are chosen in the primaries and caucuses, we have the nominating conventions, which was so badly disrupted in 2020 by the pandemic, and then the general election itself, which is attended by debates, televised debates, although there's some question about whether the televised debates actually will take place this time or not. Well, all that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. You have your midterm exam tomorrow over units 3 and 4, 24 hours tomorrow, Monday the 19th. 50 items, 45 minutes once you begin. And then once we're finished with that, expect to see some material related to Unit 5. Okay. I'll get an assignment out for the third exam, which will cover 5 and 6. So there will be some material assigned related to the material for Units 5 and 6 you'll be expected to look at for Exam 3 coming up in a couple of weeks. But we will look at Unit 5 first after the midterm exam, and I'll have a bit more to say about Unit 6 on the federal bureaucracy next week. In the meantime, good luck on your midterm exam. Study hard and take it easy. Good luck tomorrow. And we'll talk to you about the federal bureaucracy about a week from now at this time.